Deshaun Tate back with you from Tate's Take. Of course, that's where basketball lives, unless you've been living under a rock. I'm rubbing my hands together because I'm really excited, not only for today's show, but also because I have another special guest. Yes, another special guest. This guest particularly a little bit more special than the others. Right before I get ready to bring him in, I want to let you guys know exactly what you're listening to, what you're watching. This is Tate's Take ×2 today for a good reason, where basketball lives. Remember, you can follow on all social media platforms at Tate's Take Hoops, TATES TAKEHOOPS, and make sure you subscribe podcast, which is where you are watching and or listening to. Anywhere you find your favorite podcast, that is iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Red Circle, Stitcher, the whole nine. So if you've got that Android, but you don't have the iPhone, or you got the iPhone, or you don't have the Android, no excuses. You're always doing a brother a really, really good solid when you do subscribe. And last but certainly not least, as we are also streaming right now live on YouTube at Tate's Take. Yes, this is Tate's Take, the podcast. So as I always tell people on a regular basis, that if if this thing is going 94 feet long, 50 feet wide, 22 1 1/4 inches out on the perimeter for college, and 23 feet and 3/4 inches out on the perimeter for the pros. If that rim is 10 feet tall, this is where you find the best, the most educational, and the most informational basketball content on the planet in the form of a podcast. Now, I want to jump right into it because I know some of you guys have been dying to hear about the Lakers. Talk a little trash if you're a LeBron fan. I guess kind of be in your feelings and licking your wounds a little bit if you're not necessarily a LeBron fan. But when I jump into it, because this guy I'm bringing on, I've been waiting to actually kind of do this for quite some time now. And with that being said, I also want to do basketball questions as well. So we'll have that opportunity to do so. Now bringing him on, that would be none other than Van Tate, sports director of KRQE News 13 in Fox, New Mexico. Find him on Twitter at KRQE Sports. That is KRQE SPORTS. Van, what's up, baby? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm outstanding, man. Thanks for asking, man. I know we've been talking about doing something like this for quite some time. We never quite got around to it, but I am glad that we had the opportunity to do so today, and that we did have quite a few listeners and watchers waiting for this opportunity as well. So I'm really overly thankful, grateful, and appreciative of you joining us today.
Oh, yeah, man. Family affair. Got to get this done, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I was going to say, now this dude right here, and I'm pretty sure that he won't disagree with me. If you're looking for the coolest last name in all of anybody doing this in this business, I definitely got to be the dude that go ahead that says that, like you said, a family affair, man. So let me ask this first, because I know that, obviously you're out there in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You've been doing this for 27 years. You've won so many media awards. We've texted back and forth about this multiple times. And I definitely first want to start everything by saying congratulations to you, because every time I look up, you're getting another award and you're up for it and contending for something else. And you've just been doing a phenomenal job throughout the course of your career. Feel free to share with the people a little bit about starting out, kind of what got you started in the business, what type of things motivated you, inspired you to get into this business, and just kind of, a little bit about your journey on diving into it.
Well, what's crazy about this whole thing is that when I was a kid, I used to actually do a fake newscast. And I forgot all about that until I got my first job, and my mom pulled out this cassette tape of me doing this, what I called it, the creepy, scary news. and I totally forgot about that. But what's the interesting thing is that I majored in business when I first got to college, and just midway through, man, I just changed to journalism, and I don't know why. And so I ended up following something that was already in me from a kid, and forgetting about those seeds that were planted when I was a kid, where I was just actually mimicking what I saw on TV broadcasts. And so it's amazing how sometimes you just follow your path, you find your way. And so that's how I just got started, because I don't know why I started doing it. It was in me. That's the best way to describe it to you, because I didn't know that I was going to change from business to journalism. I had no idea. And then when I did it, it made all the sense in the world. And once I got into news, I was doing news before I was doing sports, and I really didn't like news. Nothing against news, but it's not sports, man. And so I started getting an opportunity to do some sports stuff, and that kind of just took on a life of its own, and here I am.
That part of your journey sounding a little bit way too familiar. I'm like, is he talking about my life story a little bit early into how I kind of started out too, in which it's in you. If it's in you, it's in you. You know, you're passionate about it and you love it, and it's just something that, you know, at one point you're just kind of doing for free just because you love it and so forth, and then it just kind of overflows and kind of a domino effect in a sense from there. And I even recall and remind myself sometimes of the times where I would mute basketball games as I'm watching them live, and I'm kind of doing, you know, my own little commentary in a really weird way. I guess people, probably my mom probably thought that was the weirdest thing ever, but you know, it's just one of those really weird and really quirky things. But it's funny that we kind of share a little bit in those regards. I want to talk about this Lakers team a little bit, because I know after talking to you, and I'm like, hey, this is Albuquerque, New Mexico. Never been, never had the most extreme interest of going. You know, you're growing up and there's all these other places, Miami and New York and Houston and LA and all these other places. But there's a very interesting place that you're at in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Talk to me about what it's like there with the sports market, or the fan base, the fandom. What is that like there? So you can kind of fill some of the people in who've never really been, or what interesting things is there in regards to sports in Albuquerque?
Well, the one thing about it here is that since we don't have a pro team, the college teams, the Lobos are the ones who get the most publicity. In basketball, though, you see New Mexico State actually going to the tournament all the time, and you know, they play good basketball down there. So we got two teams that can get it done in basketball, and people, Lobos, it's Lobos everything in Albuquerque, and you know, you got your Aggie fans here too. So they have a following too, and so with that being said, the pro team, when it comes to basketball, a lot of people like the Lakers, man. You know, like here, the Lakers is like the team, and you have some Spurs fans, and you know, like you have different teams like that and stuff like that, and there's a Chicago contingent out here too. Like you know, like when we moved from New Mexico to Chicago, from Chicago to New Mexico, I noticed that there were a lot of Cubs fans here and stuff like that, and so there's Chicago's represented too, but the Lakers, that's the NBA team here, man, that everybody kind of follows, you know. So,
you know, and speaking about the Lakers, I'm glad that you mentioned them, because we did have the opportunity to see a big time victory for them yesterday, now leading the series 2-1, 116-108 over the Portland Trailblazers. LeBron, 38 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. Dame Dollar, 34 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. When you're looking at this particular matchup and series, what things, I guess, kind of concerned you, or maybe some of the fan base, or maybe not nearly as much? Did you have the feel that they were going to be okay after game one? Obviously, it seems like they just, you know, Portland kind of awakened the monster a little bit when the second game rolled around. But I want to know a little bit about your concerns, or just kind of what you're seeing in regards to that series as a whole. And probably the magical question here: who is the third scorer outside Anthony Davis and LeBron James for this Lakers team, or who does it need to be?
I think those guys haven't worked out. To, you know, one night it's them, one, and one night it's the other. But I never was concerned about it, because I thought, to me, it looked like LeBron was trying to let some of the other guys make contributions. He does this every year with the playoffs and stuff like that. He knows how it is to turn it on in the postseason. When he can, when he needs to, he will. And we just saw that just in this last game. LeBron's like, no, it's not going down like that. And so he does. He can take the whole team and just put them on his back, and he still can do that this late in his career. And I think that's what happened. I think he's trying to let the young Lakers emerge. You know, Anthony Davis, Kuzma, and all those guys. He's trying to let them. It seemed like that first game, he wanted to be like more like a facilitator and maybe get a couple buckets here or there and let the young guys carry them. But then it's like when they lost that game, he's just like, I need to step in. And Anthony Davis actually stepped up,
Mhm.
you know, in that second game, and then LeBron the third game. And if LeBron wants to, and this is just my opinion, I think that he could go ahead and finish him off because he's used to playing at that kind of level, and these guys are, you know, they're good. Portland's good, and I think what's been good for them is Melo's been good for them. You
Yep.
know, everybody. Just think about if he had come to the Lakers instead. You know, because they were talking about that at the beginning, and so I think he's been good. I think it hurts that Avery's not there. Um, Avery Bradley's not there out there with the Lakers. I think that hurts. But I think other than that, LeBron can do what he wants, and that's what I think I just think that he was trying to let some of the other guys get some of the action, and if they don't step up, he'll just say, okay, well, you guys are just going to be castaways again. Let me just go ahead and take care of this because we need to get this done, and that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, kind of just coming along for the ride. And it's kind of like that mentality, or it almost kind of seems, or the direction that this series is tending to go in kind of reminds me, or has that feel, that energy, or that vibe, like a Floyd Mayweather in a sense. Floyd comes out, you know, he'll kind of size you up a little bit. First one, maybe 2-3 rounds, you know, he'll kind of feel you out a little bit, kind of get a feel for what you're doing, make you feel like you're actually doing something, and then he'll just completely obliterate you, demolish you for the remainder of the fight. It kind of feels that way. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it feels like that. And you talking about Mayweather, you know, a lot of people don't realize in those contracts, like some of the boxing guys, sometimes you might get more money as long as the fight lasts longer. I remember talking to the late great Johnny Tapia once when he was fighting someone, and I was like, Johnny, you had him in the third round, and then Johnny was like, ha 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 ha. He just laughed, and then one of the guys in his group said, like, well, if he got it to X amount of rounds, he would get this bonus. And I was like, oh, okay. So he backed off a little bit, let the guy get his bearings, you know. So that's crazy. So I don't know if Floyd does that or not, but I know that. But your comparison is spot on. It's like LeBron's just filling it out, just checking it out. It's almost like I'm gonna ease into these playoffs, and then I'm gonna get going. You know, that's what it's like for him. And then once he turns it on, man, that's it.
Yeah, I was telling a few different people that, you know, there was some concerns there, obviously, especially coming into the postseason for them, in which, you know, I really believe that Portland had to be in a position where they had to utilize pick and roll on the offensive end and things like that because of the Lakers' size. Like when you start factoring in, you've got McGee as a starter, essentially. You have Anthony Davis as a starter as well. Dwight Howard coming off the bench. Kyle Kuzma and LeBron are no small fries either. So they definitely have the size advantage. But would Portland really be putting in place what could they have really done to kind of come away with the series, or at least keep it close, or definitely look forward to actually winning it? Speaking of the Los Angeles Lakers, today just so happens to be the birthday of Kobe Bryant. You know, obviously unfortunate circumstances kind of had taken him out, but he forever lives within us. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity, never asked you, but I guess this is a good place and time to ask. Had you ever met Kobe Bryant? And if you haven't, you know, what are some of the stories that you've heard in regards to how he was as a person, the effects that you believe that he had on this game and the circles that in? Do you have an interesting Kobe Bryant story for us?
Yeah, well, I met Kobe. The Lakers had an exhibition game here in Albuquerque, and he and Shaq were both here. And he seemed almost kind of shy. You know, he was just standing off to the side. He wasn't engaging anybody in conversation. He actually didn't play that game because he had some kind of injury. But Shaq, on the other hand, was the opposite. Shaq was trying to, if he sees this, I wonder if he remembered me, because he was trying to get me. He was like, man, this is your talent. You need to take me around, man. Take me out. Show me around. And I said, Shaq, I got to go home, man. I got a family at home. And I thought he was joking at first. And man, he was sweating me, man. I was like, well, like, what should I do? You know, but I ended up going home because I was just like, yo, I can't be serious, right? He's just playing. And that was a fun night, man, because he's just a big kid, man. He was fun. And Kobe, I didn't really talk to him. I said hi to him and talked to him, just trying to talk to him, saying, hey, you doing any interviews? And he was like, no. He was just standoffish. But I got a good friend who played against him. A couple of guys I know who played against him, and they had their own stories. And one was Kenny Thomas. Kenny Thomas played against him, and Kenny always had good stories about Kobe. But Danny Granger had a story about Kobe, and when Kobe elbowed him and he lost those teeth, his two front teeth, and he was telling me, he said he thought Kobe had done it on purpose, and he was telling Kobe the whole time, like, you did that on purpose. Kobe was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said that Kobe was just competing, and he didn't do it on purpose, but Danny was upset when it happened, And so, but he said he would always tease him about that, like, man, you did that on purpose, and he didn't. It was just they were just competing. You know how you can bump into somebody or whatever, and that happens.
Oh, of course.
So
sure.
Yeah, it was. But I don't know if you remember that game when he didn't knock him all the way out. He just pushed him back really far. Like they had to go and like work on his teeth during halftime and all that stuff. And yeah. So Danny talked about that to me. So.
Man, Van, awesome story. And just thinking about the life of Kobe Bryant, everything that he's done for this game and everything that he's been, and just kind of, even though he kind of may have seemed standoffish or whatever the case may be, him and Shaq obviously had totally different personalities. That's kind of Boban Marjanovic for the Dallas Mavericks reminds me of Shaq a little bit, with that personality and kind of like that goofball kind of, and because he's both of them are such big guys in terms of their stature, it almost kind of makes it that much more weird or quirky or kind of funny in a sense. But long live the memory and just everything of Kobe Bryant, man. It's been a really weird year. Let me ask you this as we kind of conclude the Kobe Bryant part of it. Where were you and how did you find out that news of your initial thoughts, I guess, that time? I mean, I can only imagine that you were saddened, but how did that news break to you, and what do you remember about how you initially felt as soon as you heard it?
Well, I was at home, and it was on a Sunday, so my weekend guy does the sports on that day, and so I was at home, and I saw it come through. I saw somebody, it wasn't even reported yet. This guy just put up an Instagram post that said, rest in peace. And I was like, what is he talking about? I was like, man, this is not funny. Like, why is he doing this? And so I later see another story, and then I'm going like, what happened? And then I turn on the tube, man, and I see that this has happened. And at first I was like going like, wow, that's awful, man. It was so shocking. And then I was just thinking like, well, life is just, that's how life is. You just don't know. And then 2 weeks later, I'm going like, man, how come I can't get over this? It was like that. It was like I didn't really like know him, and it was affecting me. Like I was in a funk, man. I was depressed, man. It was weird, So I guess because he was so iconic and got a chance to influence a lot of people, and you saw him all the time, and it was just he's like one of your heroes, and it just really hits you hard, man. So it did, man. It got me. It surprisingly got me. Like usually stuff happens and I just try to roll with it. But this one was different, man. It got me. It like that was like taking a body blow, man.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the crazy part about it. Number one of the reasons that makes things even a little bit more sad, in my opinion, is that we almost have to, when we hear news like this, we almost have to say, okay, who's making up stuff this time? You know what I mean? It's because you don't really know in this world that, people get to making up stuff. And I forget the actual term of it, but just more so fake news, and it's unfortunate that we even have to see what's really happening for or not, because there's so much fake news. It's really disgusting people in this world nowadays. And outside of that fact, I just think that, when the over the grand scheme of it, that's almost the Kobe Bryant thing. Like, I feel like as COVID-19 and the whole, racial injustice and social injustice and everything coming right behind that, or right after that, rather, it was like, I wasn't ready for all of this. I know a lot of us kind of feel that way. It was like, I wasn't even over Kobe yet. Like, how is all of this,
right?
Kind of like happening. And now the Kobe thing is kind of like an afterthought to a lot of people leading up to today and and his memory and everything. And probably is going to go over a lot of people's heads until the end of the year, where we have like a year in review of 2020. And then obviously the Kobe thing is probably going to come back around at that point. But it's just really, really sad, day to day, just to have to, memorialize and remember someone like a Kobe Bryant. And as we keep moving forward now, I heard you mention a couple things. Obviously, Danny Granger, you talked about the Lobos, you talked about the Aggies a little bit. Let's start off with the Aggies. People at Albuquerque might not be too happy with that, but I want to save the better for last. Starting off with the Aggies, a team that, entered the tournament, had a really, really close chance at beating Auburn, who went on to the Final Four that particular year. And then, came out this year. They always have a very, very respectable program. I actually picked them to win that particular game in the first round last year, because you're not going to fool me. I watch a ton of college basketball, and obviously the Aggies as well as the Lobos are two very, they're very, very respectable programs. I mean, are they the Dukes, Carolinas, Kansas, Kentucky? Probably not, but they are still very respectable. Did you see all of this happening with Pascal Siakam? A lot of people kind of forget or don't know that he even went to Mexico State. Did you see him having this kind of career? Because he had a really good career at Mexico State. However, I'm not quite sure that I saw something like this coming. What says you?
I didn't see this because, it's like he got better and better and better and better. Like when he was even a G League Player of the Year, I was thinking like, okay, that's good. He's and then Kawhi leaves after they win a championship, and he's better again. That team is they're just taking care of their business, man. Everybody was thinking that they ain't gonna come out of the East, because Kawhi left, and that's not true, And so it's interesting how he has taken on this leadership role, and he's embraced it, and he's been good. And I just think Pascal, that's just a testament to how much he values the game and how much he's a student of the game, trying to learn more and more as he continues to play this game, because he shows improvement every year. And so I'm not even sure we've seen his ceiling yet, because the guy just keeps getting better. I mean, he hasn't had a year where it's like, okay, well, he's about even. He's tapped off. No, he hasn't taped off at all, man. He's just, each year there's an improvement, and this year including,
Now, in regards to now switching over a little bit to the Lobos, they had this really long stretch under Steve Alford that I'm sure that it made school history with a lot of the runs that they had at that time. Now we're in a situation where we are looking at a team that went 7-11 in the conference in the Mountain West. I think 14-19 overall. The thing with Carlton Bragg, a transfer from Kansas, did not work out very well. And while Jaquan Lyle, formerly of Ohio State, had a really good career as well, or a pretty good one anyway, those are two guys that are not going to be returning. In addition to that, you have a Corey Manigault, who was a senior this past year as well. Coming back is Vance Jackson, who averaged double digits, and Zane Martin, the only two players that are returning to this team that average double digits. What do you see from those two guys specifically in where this program will actually need to be? Like, where is this program going forward? Because again, I mean, when you're playing at the Pit, I mean, people can say whatever they want to say. I do understand that, in Durham, North Carolina, is really, really tough to play there. I understand that. I get there are very many tougher places to play than it is at the Pit. What is that atmosphere like, and what do you see moving forward with this particular program?
The atmosphere is intimidating, even to some of the players when they first get there. They feel the pressure, like, man, we got to win, because the crowd is so locked in. I'm going to shock you now. Those two guys you named, they're not even there anymore. Vance Jackson transferred to Arkansas, and Zane Martin just entered the transfer portal a couple of weeks ago. So those two guys are gone. And Malawatch is a guy to keep your eye on. He's been with them. This is going to be his senior season, and he's been with them. Plus, they have Jeremiah Francis, the guard from North Carolina, who transferred to New Mexico, and he's going to be eligible to play immediately because the NCAA improved his waiver just the other day. So there's two pieces right there. You got Vex White Snyder, who who uh, who showed some very encouraging play last year. You got some of these young guys coming up that are going to, I think they're going to have to. They're going to have to carry the load. But if I looked for leadership right away, I would look at McQuatch Malawatch, and he's been good. He's been one of those guys, like you can rely on him to give you on both sides of the court something. And so I'm as far as the veterans go, he's the guy to keep your eye out on now, because before Zane left, there was those two as far as veterans coming back and guys that you think that's going to be have a big play and things, but now it's just him. So as far as veterans go, they got
Now let me ask you this, because I know. Okay. No, go ahead.
I was going to say they've added some pieces now. They have some guys that are going to make some contributions on that team, but like until they do it, you just wait for it to happen, because everybody thought they were going to just do all these things when they had all the transfers last year from Caldwell to Bragg to Lyle. Everybody thought they were going to do all these different things, and that stuff has to, like the off the court stuff has to not enter the equation. And so I'm in a wait and see mode as far as the new guys to see what happens, because they have the potential to be pretty good. Pretty decent, competitive. But when you got all these different pieces, they got to gel together, and that's going to take you a while to get that going. Like by the time you get to conference play, that gelling should be solidified, where you see what kind of team you have. But that's if these guys can stay together and not make off the court bad decisions.
Yeah, I was gonna say for those people who may not necessarily be up on New Mexico basketball. You mentioned Danny Granger. There was who was that? That was a transfer from Kansas at one point. I want to say, don't tell me the name.
Giddens.
It's right on the J.R. Giddens. J.R. Giddens was another one. I really like Darrington Hobson a lot. A guy who was actually one of my first. Who was one of my first interviews when I started doing this, and I was doing sports. He was literally one of my first 3 interviews that I've ever done in my life. First getting started in, I think that was somewhere right around, maybe 2011 or somewhere up in that range. And so I never had the opportunity to chop it up with him very much after that. And I certainly hope that he's doing well. I don't know how often you hear from him, but 3 guys, within that range that were certainly huge pieces for, the success of New Mexico at that time.
Well, a lot of things, like people remember that era, and I'll take you back even further. When Dave Bliss was here, you had Charles Spider-Smith, Kenny Thomas, 2 NBA guys, and a third NBA guy, Daniel Santiago. They were all on the same team at the same time. Okay. So it was like one of those UNLV teams. It was like in the Mountain West, where you have all these. Because, it's crazy now that you look at Kim Birch and Jones Jr. and those guys in the NBA right now, and they were on the same team when they were at UNLV, and they got nothing done. So it's just, but they were NBA guys. So it's just weird how a team dynamic in college, it really has to be a team dynamic. It really does. Sure. And that just shows you that it really does have to be that. Going back to Dave Bliss days, those teams they were always in the top 25. They were really good. They had guys who didn't even go to the NBA who were just good players that probably should have gone. Like I think about a guard named Lamont Long, who was just a slasher. I don't know if you remember Lamont Long, who was really good. And so they had some teams, and a little guy who was one of the last cuts for the Orlando Magic, and it's not because of his play, it's because they I think they were choosing between him and Penny. He wasn't going to win that battle because this guy is only 5'9", and that's Greg Brown. Greg Brown was the Naismith winner for the 6 feet and under Player of the Year national award when he came out. So that dude was. And his son right now, keep an eye on his son. His son is named Amari Brown, and his son is going into 9th grade this year. He plays for AAU ball for the Atlanta Celtics, and he's one of those top players, and he's going to be good. I don't know where he's going to end up going to high school, where he's going to end up going to college, but that kid is on track, and he's not short like his dad. He got his mom's side of the family for height. He's already about 6'4", and he's just going into high school. Yeah.
I'll be sure to keep my eyes and my ears open. I'm always around that particular I'm always just around that grassroots atmosphere and just kind of keeping up, especially with the Atlanta Celtics. I'm very, very familiar within that. So I'll definitely keep my eyes and my ears open for that. Just real quick check-in. A couple people want to come in and throw some love around. Derek Crush Boyd saying Kobe had an everlasting effect on his class and generation and the new class and generation as well, especially for guys like Jason Tatum, amongst so many others. I understand why that would be their GOAT. Also mentioning that Darrington Hobson was very different, very athletic, and that he met him in Atlanta at a Lifetime Fitness and did some workouts with him. And then also mentioning J.R. Giddens was a gem. Also the old era, till I would say 10 to 15 years ago, certain transfers changed the look of programs. So appreciate Derek Crush Boyd, who is a usual, consistent and persistent listener and watcher here. Always thankful and grateful for him. Now, I know me and you kind of got into some conversation and getting ready to conclude here. I don't want to keep you for too long. I know that we had some conversation through text message when the season was in, and San Diego State was just on this tear. I mean, they were just They didn't appear that they could be stopped. And I was pretty optimistic about New Mexico in that particular game. And while they were trying to fight a little bit, they just didn't have, if you remember us texting that conversation. I had some because it was a home game, I think, for New Mexico at that time. And you kind of let me know that I just don't think that they're going to have enough in that particular game. What did you see from San Diego State specifically last year? And it's very unfortunate. I can only imagine what that could have done for the Mountain West, them getting into the tournament, maybe getting a number 1 seed, and then maybe having a legitimate opportunity at a run to the Final Four. I think Kawhi Leonard even had his jersey retired this year. How special was that team from which you had the opportunity to see?
That team was very special. And before I go further, there's one guy I forgot to mention who was a senior coming back, Keith McGee. He's going to be a factor too. Keith McGee is a pretty good 3-point shooter and a guy who he can play the floor pretty well, So, but going back to what you were saying about San Diego State, the one thing I saw in that game is even before that game started, San Diego State, the games that I watched prior to that, they closed you out. And when a team closes you out, and New Mexico was having problems with that, like New Mexico would maybe they'd get up a lead or they would just let a team hang around, and then they'd win at the end. You can't do that. You got to be decisive. And that's the one thing I noticed with San Diego State is that they would just close you out, man. And the point guard was just unbelievable, man. So it was no brainer that they just didn't have enough in the tank to be with that team, because San Diego State they just did not have those fogs and lollygag around and stuff like that. They played the entire game, and they would be playing on both sides of the ball. So that made a difference right there. I mean, when you see a team that locked in, that they're focused. You don't have to do anything with that team. You don't have to have multiple timeouts to try to get them going. They're going. If anything, they'll run you off the floor if you're not ready. So if you don't match their intensity, that's it. And so they didn't match their intensity, and I knew that they were in trouble.
Man, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, man, and just sharing some of your stories about Kobe and just talking about, New Mexico and New Mexico State and even these Lakers. I'm going to have to find a way to get out there to Albuquerque. I don't really know what to expect. I went to Utah. I'm not sure how similar that is. I went to Utah for summer league a couple years ago, and so I can only imagine some of the fun and just how different that would be. But I'm starting to kind of dig in and kind of latch on to trying to tap into a different side and trying to see what different parts are like. So I'll be interested to come out there and look around and see what that's like. And of course, anytime that you're in the Atlanta area, Metro Atlanta area, I would certainly be more than happy to kind of show you around, and you can come kick. My home is your home. You got the coolest last name in the world, man. So anytime you want to come through, I always try and show some love, and we'll go grab a bite to eat. I might have to swing you over to Magic City and have you taste some of these Lou Williams lemon pepper wings.
Oh wow, man, that's good. And when you come here, we had to send you back to some green chili, man, because green chili, it's a fruit. Like a lot of people don't know, green chili is actually a fruit. It has seeds, but green chili is it's the staple here, and you can put it on any food. If you have leftovers, you put green chili in it, you have a new meal. It has so much flavor in it. I'm dead serious, man. Anyone who's watching this who knows anything about green chili, they're nodding their head right now, going like, "Yep, right, yeah, man. We gotta get you hooked up with some green chili, man. So, because once you start eating that, you won't stop, man. You'll order it from wherever you are. You'll order it.
You can probably put that thing on anything.
Oh
no,
yeah,
seriously.
Yeah. For real, man. Like even your breakfast, anything. Like you make like a breakfast burrito with green chili, red chili, whatever. Wow. It's like that's the bet, man. There's just so much flavor. And a lot of people like the red. The green is my favorite.
Okay.
And, I like red. I like red too, but that green, man, whoo. That red tastes good, like in the Midwest, how they eat chili with the kidney beans and the ground beef. If you put the red chili in that, oh man, you can fall over with flavor, man. So
I can only imagine. I'm looking forward to it. I might get ready to book my flights sometime soon, man. Or as soon as this Corona stuff is all figured out,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to make my way out there to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Over 27 years.
Come on through, man.
Yeah, I would love to. I appreciate it. Over 27 years in this business, sports director of KRQE, News 13, and Fox New Mexico out in Albuquerque. Van Tate, find him on Twitter at KRQE Sports. That is at KRQE SPORTS. Van, again, thank you so much.
Hey, cuz, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Looking forward. We're going to have to do this sometime again, hopefully a little bit sooner than later as the Lakers in the event, God willing for Lakers fans that, they go on and take care of business against the Portland Trail Blazers. Maybe we can bring you on for each individual series that they play in the event that they keep advancing.
Whatever you want, man. You got me, man.
Thanks, Van. Appreciate it.
All right, man.
That was Van Tate again. KRQE News 13 and Fox New Mexico. Again, one last time, find them on Twitter, KRQE SPORTS at KRQE Sports. Getting ready to conclude here, and I just want to let Van know thank you so much for chiming in. Also for Derek Crush Boyd for chiming in as well, and just kind of speaking his piece a little bit on Kobe in New Mexico, J.R. Giddens and Daniel Hobson. That brother's pretty educated too. If you could take it back and remember some of those guys. And like I told Van, I've got to find a way to get to the pit. That's one of the top 5, top 10 places on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to different college basketball arenas. I would love to have that opportunity to go and see them. Quick live check in on scores. Anyways, there's only one game that's been played, and I guess we're getting ready to get to the second game of the day. The Celtics are up on the Philadelphia 76ers 110-103. So it looks like they're getting ready to close out Philly and maybe a sweeping fashion. They've got some decisions that they're going to have to make sometime soon between Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, because I'm afraid this thing just really doesn't seem like it's panning out very well. 6.5 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Up next is the Los Angeles Clippers against who I think is only like literally a couple breaths away from being the best player in the league, Luka Doncic, the number 2 seeded Clippers, the number 7 seeded Mavericks, 3:30 p. Eastern Standard Time. The Clippers lead that series 2-1. We were talking earlier, me and Van, about Pascal Siakam, 6:30 p. Eastern Standard Time. They have the opportunity, being the Toronto Raptors, to close out the Brooklyn Nets. They are up 3-0 as well. That's at 6:30. And then in the nightcap, in conclusion, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, that would be the Nuggets, the number 3 seeded Nuggets against the number 6 seeded Utah Jazz, who lead that particular series 2-1. So we're going to be doing this again tomorrow. Tomorrow at, let's see here, I want to say we got a really good time. And this is going to be awesome because we're going to be talking about some of this draft lottery, and it is going to be super duper dope. A good buddy of mine coming on with me, Jeff Goodman of the Stadium, formerly of ESPN, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on tomorrow. That's going to be taking place. He's going to be joining me here on Tate's Take. So mark your calendars, circle it, highlight it, whatever you need to do. We're bringing in Jeff Goodman to talk a little bit about the lottery. I know there's been some conversations to some of those Hawks fans and who they should pick. I'm here in Michigan currently right now around a bunch of my Pistons fans. They want to know where's Ball going? Could he go 1? Anthony Edwards, clear cut number 1 at this point. Obi Toppin, there's so many guys that you can kind of throw these names out. We're not sure. What can we expect from some of these people in the front office positions that are making some of these big time decisions coming up really, really soon as we get closer to the playoffs concluding. So make sure that you do that. Remember, at the end, only Monday through Friday, I want to mind you, only Monday through Friday, 15 minutes after the final game for each of those days, we do a special, what I like to call a 15 that a lot of times have been turned into 30, 35, 40 minutes. That is called the Final Buzzer with Deshaun Tate, where we're just recapping games from that particular day. That's Monday through Friday, 15 minutes after the last game concludes. So lately, we've been doing it after Lakers and Portland games. We've been doing it after Clippers and Mavericks games. And so when Monday through Friday rolls back around on tomorrow, starting again tomorrow, then we'll be able to recap all of the games of that day. So again, make sure you subscribe at Tate's Take, the podcast, anywhere that you find your favorite podcast. Again, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, the whole 9. If you got the Android, if you got the iPhone, it still works either way, both ways. Just hover over that search box, find that little magnifying glass right there, and just put in Tate's Take. You'll be able to find it. And make sure you tell a friend. Make sure you tell your family. Make sure you tell your mama. Make sure you tell your grandmama. Make sure you tell your enemies. Tell everybody. Tell the dog. Whoever you need to tell, make sure that you tell so that they can go and subscribe as well on the YouTube page. Subscribe to Tate's Take, the podcast, per usual, where basketball lives. See you again around this time. What are we looking at now? Probably in about 23 hours and 10 minutes to the T tomorrow, where we have Jeff Goodman from the Stadium joining us to talk about some NBA as it relates to the draft and lottery. Be good, people.